In one of my previous uploads, I believe it was titled What I Saw in the Hockomock Swamp with pictures attached. In the beginning of this video, I mentioned that my friend Steve and I had a run-in with two other men there, and it was very unnerving, and I'd get to that at a later date. And it is currently a later date. So, I'm gonna have a little more relaxed video this time, and I'm gonna go over my personal experience in the swamp. This isn't a typical upload, this is more just me talking to you. Got a cigar, got some Black Label. It's story time. So, context. My friend Steve and I went to the Freetown Fall River State Forest. I'm going to back it up even further than that. So, the Bridgewater Triangle, which I've covered in previous videos, and I will likely cover again in the future in a more official full-length upload. I've been fascinated in this since I found out about it. My friend Steve, always down for an adventure, was down to go check out the Freetown Fall River State Forest with me. So we're driving down there. You know, I told him about all the lore. I told him about all the history. He was down. He was excited. So we went down there. You know, he knew all the history behind it. We get to the Freetown State Forest to go to the Asana Ledge. We go there, we take pictures, we go for a walk. Frankly, it was a great time. No negative vibes whatsoever, and didn't get any creepy feelings. But, so we went there for a long time. We spent majority of the day there. There were a lot of dirt bikes, which is the only really negative that I can say. But, we're on our way out. No negative feelings, anything, took pictures, it was a nice day, it was a good time. Steve tells me randomly, hey, what was that swamp you were talking about? The Hockomock Swamp. So I tell him about it, and I was explaining, you know, I was kind of tired, it was a long day, I was like, you know, this is a 17,000 acre swamp that spans over half a dozen towns. You know, it's not like the Freetown State Forest where there's one designated area that you go to. So I was thinking, I don't really know if, like, there isn't a main path there. So I Google it for a while, we sit in my car for a while, I find it. I believe it was called the Circuit Bay Trailhead in West Bridgewater, which is actually right down the street from my sister's house. So we get to the Circuit Bay Trailhead in West Bridgewater. We go in there, right away we're met with this guy who claims to be a hunter. He's like, hey, there's another hunter up there, orange hat and blind, you'll see him on your way out by the power lines. So we're like, okay, no worries. We get up a ways, we walk down these power lines. In the previous video, you'll see a picture of what I saw that was on this path, down the power lines. But halfway down, we run into a couple guys coming down the path. We got a weird feeling before we saw these two. You know, whatever. I knew the context, so I was just chalking it up to that. We run into these two guys. It's this older, shorter guy who's probably in his late 50s, early 60s, and another younger guy, which had some sort of mental handicap. No judgment whatsoever, just an observation. He was bigger. I'm 6'3" and roughly 290. He was bigger than me, so I noticed that right away. This guy, the older guy, the shorter guy, is using a driver. I don't know if you're familiar with golf, but a driver is the big golf club that you tee off with on the first shot, on the first stroke of the game. Which is odd, and my friend Steve actually mentioned it later on, which was odd to me even, is that this driver was, you know, if it was on the ground, it was like up to his shoulder, which I don't know if you know anything about golfing, but that is way too big to use that as a golf club for him. Didn't think of it, whatever. He says, hey, did you see that? Over on the trailhead, there's a disemboweled deer carcass. Did you see it? And I'm like, no, that's weird. And he's like, no, seriously, come here, look at it. Guy proceeds to get close to us. He pulls out a flip phone. Whatever. But this flip phone is not a flip phone that you've been able to buy in the last 20 years. In my mind, I'm like, this is a burner phone. You don't go to a store and buy this phone. He proceeds to pull out his phone, gets really close. You know, my friend Steve is about 10 feet behind me, kind of just watching. Which is why I felt comfortable enough to get close to this guy. And I mean, this might sound a little dramatic, but context, when we walked up immediately, we didn't find out this until after the interaction encounter, but my friend Steve also said immediately when we walked up to him, both of us separately got a very bad feeling about these two people. which is very odd if you don't know that. And he gets close, he pulls out his phone, and he shows me, hey, look, here's a picture. So he shows me, this picture he took of a disemboweled deer carcass, and it was a disemboweled deer. This thing, skeleton, half flesh ripped off it. And he proceeds to tell me, he's like, that's kind of crazy. I don't think coyotes did that. And I'll get to this later on, but in my mind when he said that, I'm like, yeah, because it was you freaking psychopath. He then goes, starts questioning us. He's like, hey, you guys around here? Are you guys from around here? And in my mind, I'm just like, a little cautious, typically. So I go, yeah. I'm not sharing more than that. Yeah, we're from around here. And then he proceeds to go, oh, which way did you come in? Do you know where you are? How'd you get in here? We go, Indian Bay Circuit Bay Trailhead, right there, right around the corner. I was like, oh, okay. Just kind of looking around, just acting a little sketchy. It's just weird. He's like, he starts making small talk, gets close. Meanwhile, this bigger dude that I was talking about is standing about 10 feet behind him, like my friend Steve is standing about 10 feet behind me. And this guy is just staring, daggers. This entire encounter, he didn't say one word to either of us. Didn't grunt, didn't make a noise, didn't make any acknowledgement. He just stopped, watched this guy, stared at us while we were talking to him. Weird. And I have to preface this by saying, there's no one thing that I've mentioned here that gave me this impression. It was all of the little things adding up. It was him asking, are you from the area? How'd you get in here? Did you see this disemboweled deer carcass? I don't think it was coyotes that did that. I didn't think of it, like I said. My friend Steve later on that day mentioned, yeah, and that golf club he was on, I don't know if you noticed, but that was way too big for him to use. Like, he wasn't using that as a golf club. And, I go hiking a lot. I have a walking stick over in the corner there, but it's just kind of odd to use a driver like a golf club as a walking stick, especially in the Hockomock Swamp, where this whole entire trail is just this power line. And if you look at one of my previous uploads, you'll see pictures in which we're on this trail. And the thing about that picture, and I saw something in that picture, and I don't know what it is, I'm not implying anything, but when you look at that, there's something there, and I don't know how to explain it. That picture was taken about 2 minutes after this encounter with these two people, and that picture was taken, we're walking down the path, they're walking back this way, have the encounter, we keep going that way, and they keep going that way. About a minute later, I turn around, like I do, I take pictures when I go hiking, I just take a picture down the power line trail, it's nature, it's cool, it's a nice day out, and that's where I saw that picture, which is also odd. It's scary enough knowing that that picture was taken, what was seen in that picture was from back the way we came. And, I didn't know that until later. When I took the picture, I didn't look at it then. I didn't see anything in the picture. I didn't look at the pictures after I took them. And these two guys had this run-in. There's a combination of that. And then we, after a while, Steve and I just keep walking. We realized that this trail is really just power lines. There's nothing there. We walked for about a half an hour, and it was the same scenery. So we decide to head back. We go back to our car, go out the way we came, and we see these two guys ahead of us. Anticlimactic, forewarned. They're getting in the car, they're kind of walking slow, looking back at us, they're kind of like shuffling, taking their time, looks like they're not in a hurry at all to leave. And we eventually go, we leave, and then we think even more. We go down to this path on the way in to like, let's just go and see what this guy was talking about this disemboweled deer carcass. It's not something I particularly wanted to see, but I was like, you know what? He talked about it, he showed me a picture, whatever. Let's just go check down that way. If we don't see it, we'll come back and we'll go. We go down this path right where he said it was. And we saw it. There was a disemboweled deer carcass. The thing about this deer carcass, and what leads me to say, back when he said, all sketchy, I don't think coyotes did that, awkward silence. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, because it was you psychopath. So we see this disemboweled deer carcass, and I look at it. This deer's throat was slit. Its head was still on. Its innards were gutted. You could see rib cage and bone all through the torso, but everything else that still had flesh. This thing's throat was slit, and it had a knife in its head. It wasn't old. It was fresh. That guy was a psychopath.